Cool. All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Formula Podcast, where we use fake money to buy real F1 teams. Use to fake money to buy real F1 teams to win imaginary points.
No, that works. That was all right. That was solid.
I am Paul. That is Ben. And we are here to talk about everything in the wake of the Grand Prix in Azerbaijan, which there's a lot to talk about.
There absolutely is. I mean, there always is, but this one feels special.
It does. It does feel just close to my heart due to the level of how, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is actually happening. And then just the huge disaster and disappointment, but yet strangely celebratory because of Oscar Piastri. But okay, so we'll get into it. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
First off, it was a lot of people had to start in the pit lane. So Lewis Hamilton started in the pit lane, took a bunch of new parts. Yuki Tsunoda took a bunch of new parts and started in the pit lane as well. Good for them. Yuki Tsunoda got a DNF lap 14 because he touched, I want to say it was Lance Stroll. He hit somebody in the opening laps, and Yuki Tsunoda got out, and then Lance Stroll retired lap 45. And I haven't done the math because I don't have Lance Stroll on my team. I didn't do the math to see if he actually pulled in any points or if he took the negative 20. But I think he took the negative.
Yeah, I also have him on none of my teams, so I couldn't tell you.
We could insert Lance Stroll joke here, but that's okay. Going up from the bottom, the big thing I want to talk about, and we can talk about more of the details, but the high point is Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez. So Perez had a great race. He was doing very well. He out-qualified Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
He was outperforming Max Verstappen. So Max Verstappen finished P5, which means he would have finished P7. And then, I mean, you watched it. Freaking Carlos Sainz was P3. Sergio Perez was P4. They were fighting each other. Perez was P3. Sainz passed him. He passed him. They went back and forth. And then they touched tires on a straightaway.
And that was the second to last lap, correct?
Second to last lap.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep. So officially on the record, they lasted lap 49 of 51.
What would you say is worse? Crashing out turn 1, lap 1, or crashing out second to last lap? What would you say is worse?
I would say, as the person watching the sport, I would say the worst is crashing out lap 49.
Yeah.
Because lap 1, it's understood that you're all throwing elbows and going for it.
Sure.
Right? Like, you're expected to be ultra aggressive.
Yeah.
The first lap. That's the closest the pack is. You can't count on a red flag. You can't count on things starting over, so you have to be aggressive.
I guess that's fair. You're going to be upset if you crash out turn 1, lap 1, because you're like, we traveled here. This is the moment. This is everything has been building to this moment, and 2 minutes in, it's
that's
done.
True. That's
I'm
a
done.
good point.
But no, I think you're right, because especially in their position, you're P3, P4, you're gonna get points. You've got a chance to take somebody, to finish strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything that you've worked for, everything that you've. I guess that was a silly question. It's way worse to crash out in the second to last lap.
But I do agree with your perspective. As soon as it's like, for the drivers, like, man, I just got here. I didn't even get a chance to do, what I could. And for the whole team, all the logistics that come moving off that all over the world. Like, I definitely agree that it would really suck to get there and then not even make it through the first turn.
Yeah, I got you. I think I'm looking at it through a much more impersonal, like, project manager's eyes. Like, do you know what the logistics required to get everyone in these cars today, and it's already over? So, but yeah, I think the racers, the racer, it's going to break your heart more to fight for something, almost get there, and then lose it all.
Yeah. So, but there are a couple people who did not have broken hearts.
That's true.
So first is Oliver Behrman.
Oliver Behrman. You shot me a text midday, and you're like, dude, Behrman can drive.
Behrman can drive. He was doing well.
He was in a Haas. He was not in a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And I know some of you nitpickers are going to be like, well, it's still technically a Ferrari. But it wasn't Ferrari. It wasn't a red car.
It wasn't a red car, and he qualified P11.
And finished 10th, right?
Yeah, finished 10th.
Finished in the points.
Now, the asterisk for that is he was going to finish 12th until Perez.
Okay, so let's get that out of the way, though.
Do that.
So Piastri would have, still been first.
Yeah.
But, so yes, the double points finish for Williams. Congratulations to you guys. We'll talk about you in a minute.
Yep.
That wouldn't have happened if, and a lot of these results would have been, two spots lower. But now that's been said,
but that's the race.
Behrman's been in 2 races. He's gotten in the points twice with 2 different teams. I mean, that's a lot.
If you listen to Talking Heads on F1, it's historical. So
yeah,
good for him.
Absolutely.
And then we want to go I want to save Williams because I have a lot to talk about with.
Oh,
Williams.
for sure, yeah.
But like, okay, the Max Verstappen just had his off race.
It's just kind of a non. I mean, finishing the points because he should, and he's in a Red Bull, but it was kind of a non-factor. This is not a Max Verstappen race.
No. And the guy who everybody was counting on, freaking Lando Norris, didn't even get out of Q1.
Yeah, well, I mean, so he starts let's shed some light on that.
Okay,
guy starts P17.
Yes,
finishes P4.
Got me Boku points.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know people like to rag on him because he was, emotional and teary-eyed following the qualifying, and it's like, it's so hard to overtake you. So I don't imagine much is going to happen. We'll have to see, of course, but like then he comes back and just smokes everybody.
Does wonderful.
Yeah. So good for him. So I mean, that's why I feel okay ragging on him, because like the guy can obviously drive.
Yeah, and
good for him. Like that was amazing.
And fantasy F1 tip number 1 of the day: if you have your really great drivers, it can pay off to have them qualify poorly because they're going to pass everybody, especially if you're dealing.
Yeah, I think we talked about this 2 months ago.
Yeah.
It's the inverse is also true. If you have your lower tier guys qualifying P6. Don't get your hopes up. It's not going to be a great day points wise, from a fantasy perspective. But yeah, again, when you get the Norrises in the back, it's gonna work out for you. You're gonna be all right. So
man, and good for Oscar Piastri. Again, before we go to Williams, good for Oscar Piastri because bringing the race results up here, he won this one on merits. And I know I'm kind of parroting what everybody said on F1.com, but there's no sense of, well, his friend, gave him the victory, or, I know Lando Norris should have, he should have given it back. There's none of that. Lando Norris didn't make it out of Q1. It was on Oscar Piastri. He was aggressive. He did it on merit, and he won.
That's a great point. Yeah, this was not the team's throwing him a bone because he's been a team player. Yeah, Lando was starting right near the back, and the guys who crashed behind him crashed behind him. He employed a risky, he only changed his tires once during the entire race, right?
So yeah,
and so check, it was super risky, but he did it. He's got it.
And it's worth going back. I watched it once. I didn't go back and watch the replay, but where he passes Charles Leclerc was ridiculous. And the analysis I got from the live commentators was that like Charles Leclerc saw Oscar Piastri behind him, but they were coming up for that left-hand turn, and Charles Leclerc, like he didn't back off. He was racing uber aggressive.
Oh, sure.
They don't, at least live, they didn't think he was. Charles Leclerc probably didn't think that Oscar Piastri was going to gamble the whole race, break that late, and just dive into this turn, and he did. And when that happened, Charles Leclerc just couldn't pass him after that, and he burned out his tires trying to do it. And just overall well aggressive. Good on him.
Yeah.
That's super cool. All right, Williams,
double points finish.
Good for them.
Love Logan Sargent, but this is a great moment for Vols, the principal over at Williams.
Okay.
I like to watch his post race press releases, and you always feel so bad for him because he is probably the most straightforward, like no spin. Not trying to make the best of things. I mean, he is a little bit. His statements are somewhat prepared, but he'll look right at the camera and say, "This worked. This didn't. This is on me. We messed this up. It's heartbreaking. We were so close." But this time around, for him to be able to say, "Here's Colapinto," and he, it was the right move. It was the right move to drop Logan. There was enough of the season left to fight for.
Yeah,
and so he picked his guy. And it's working out for him. Albon's doing great. And so again, asterisk out of the way. Yes, if Sainz and Perez hadn't crashed, who knows if they would have both been in the points or not? But this is by far the best result for Williams. So good for them, and good for the long suffering fandom.
And to anybody who is like, well, we would, and this isn't you or me, but for the people out there who are like, well, the only reason they won was because someone else crashed. Well, yeah, absolutely. It's racing.
But that's
right?
That's every
they were
week.
good enough to be there, and they were number 3. 2 other people in front of them crashed. They became number 1. Just like if we were on a foot race and somebody falls, well, then I will pass them, right?
That's a great point.
It's you're there. That's part of the race. When Sainz and Perez crashed, it wasn't because a bird flew into their intake. It wasn't because some weird freak thing happened. No, they were two racers, ultra competitive, throwing bows.
Yep.
And it happened. So I think they should know. I think everybody who got a bump up in position because of that, they should
earned it.
Earned it.
Because they didn't crash into somebody else.
There we go. There we go. Which again, I still need to work on that footage from when I did the sim. I crashed into everybody.
Sure.
All right. So it's a lot harder. I mean, I'm not comparing F1 reality to simulator racing.
Yeah.
But it's pretty hard to not bump into anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is the race in a nutshell. Freaking.
Okay. Wait. Actually, let's stay with Williams for just 1 second, because here, was this Colapinto's first race?
It was.
Okay. This is going to be very exciting. I think, just to watch what happens over the next month or so with him. Just because you come in, Williams hasn't been a great car this. I'm sorry, hasn't had a great car this year.
Yeah.
Their upgrade package a couple weeks ago certainly helped them out, but then he's coming in kind of cold, and then comes out with P8, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it P8?
Oh, P10, I think.
P10.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I mean that's pretty impressive, and and there's always the potential fluke factor. I think, but I'd love to see.
Oh no, wait, P8. You're right, P8. I'm sorry, I was mixing up him and Oliver Behrman.
Okay, so Albon was P7.
Yep.
And Colapinto was P8. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. What will this do for his stock? Because he's not going to be driving with Williams next year.
No, that's a good point.
I wonder how this shakes things up in terms of who's kicks. Does Kicksauber have their second guy yet? Because they got Nico Hulkenberg, and they don't have.
I think so. I think the favorite for it is our man with the mullet, but I think Bottas is a favorite.
Gotcha.
But I don't think it's decided yet. We can check.
I don't know who still has any openings, but this, he could really be putting forth a strong campaign here to. Still be a primary driver in 2025.
Walking off the street and assuming, got it. I understand there was a wreck, and that's why he ended up P8. But you're telling me that all wrecking, not taking into account, he would have finished P10.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but a couple of really good racers had to take engine swaps or parts and start pits. All right, got it.
But again, if after next week and the following week, if he has similar results, I'd love to maybe see him on a baby RB car.
Yeah.
Which with Yuki,
but also Yuki's the one. This is the second DNF in a row.
Oh, that's true,
right? But granted, it's because of collisions, but still, man. No, I'm super excited. I did put Colapinto on pretty much all of my fantasy teams.
Nice.
So I'm very happy that happened.
Yeah, no, I did as well, because he is the cheapest guy after Logan left.
Cheapest guy and gets you points on merit.
Absolutely. But, and then again, let's mention this real quickly. So let's jump back to Haas.
Yeah.
Oliver Behrman, second race ever, and he's in a Haas car, and he costs $15 million.
Yes.
My jaw dropped when I was setting my teams, because I was thinking he'd be pricey at 11.5 or 12, but 15 mil. And blew my mind.
I really truly believe that was politically decided for the game, and the reason is as soon as you have him race for Ferrari and he's 15 mil, and then he races for Haas and he's 5 mil, that is F1
dumping on
making a public statement about the value of the teams over the value of the driver, and I have to believe that's the only reason they wouldn't do it, because otherwise you're saying that Oliver Behrman off the street is worth more than Nico Hulkenberg and is worth more than Kevin Magnussen.
Right.
That can't be true. But I could also see them saying, well, I just throw the game into anarchy, and everybody would be talking about why F1.com likes, Oliver Behrman, right? Likes Ferrari over Haas, even when, well, yeah, because they're Ferrari and they're Haas for Fantasyland, So, but yeah, I didn't put him on my team just because of that. I'm like, there's no way.
I didn't have anywhere near that kind of money to throw around,
or that much faith in him to get rid of. Because you would have to have get rid of any two other drivers, or gotten rid of Fernando Alonso in order to be able to afford him.
Well, and that's true though. Here's the thing, there's a magical line where an unknown quantity is either an enticement or a liability.
Yes,
and I just think that where the fantasy F1 folks set that bar was a little bit silly.
It has to be politically. Like they probably were just that's his price, and we're leaving it that way.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can think. But Colapinto, man, when he went in at 4.5, which I think he went at 4.5 or 4.8, I'll double check. But that was the price that our countryman went out at. So I think it was. He pretty much was a 1-for-1 swap. So as soon as you sold,
I mean, I'll take that all day. That was amazing.
Absolutely. And all he had to do was not hit the wall, and he did fine. And he surpassed that.
Yeah.
All right. What else do you want to talk about with the race? Anything more you want to touch on?
I don't.
Everybody else did. They did fine.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else was where you would think they kind of were. Oh, except Fernando Alonso getting 6th place. Good for him. I think he's been waiting for his due a little bit there. And again, if you put that next to his teammate Lance Stroll at
DNF.
Oh, DNF. He also crashed.
Yeah.
Did he crash out?
I think he tapped Yuki Tsunoda.
Okay.
Early on, just had damage, but that was what happened. So he got a puncture early on and had a pit like on lap 2. I forget what it was.
I got you.
It was. I'm remembering saying. So he bumped Yuki Tsunoda, put Yuki Tsunoda out. He got a puncture.
Gotcha.
So he went into the pits, put on his hards or put on his mediums. I think he started on hards, but whichever way it is, he got his compound swap and tried to make it to the end of the race. And I think he just had some other damage because there's no reason they would have DNF'd him on lap 45.
Yeah.
They would have just had him finish it.
Sure.
But I want to say he had some sort of other damage. Maybe he bumped somebody else. I'm not sure.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, but again, for Alonso to get up there, above Hamilton. And, it was just below Max Verstappen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So
good for him.
Yep. Max Verstappen finished P5, and then Fernando Alonso P4. Yeah. No, he did really good. I do want to touch break. I do want to touch on the rule changes.
Okay, yeah, go for it. Sorry, we had a little military flashback. Break, new message.
Break, new message. I still remember our old deputy commodore. He was in the middle of a conversation with somebody. He was a blah 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 blah. Break. I started talking to he actually said the word break. And started talking to somebody else and knife handing and everything. I'm like, man, I remember that.
Do you ever start work emails now with bluff?
Yes, I actually went to do that, and I had to backspace. Bluff stands for bottom line up front.
Yep.
And I went to go bluff and started typing. I did stop myself putting asterisks and saying informational. And I started an email like that. I'm like, if I'm sending this email to my boss, like, no. Okay, backspace. I love that. So a big rule change came out that impacts my philosophy in fantasy Formula One. Now that we have multiple drivers for multiple teams.
Mm-hmm.
Up until this race, it was as soon as your guy is no longer racing that race, as soon as he's listed as inactive,
mm-hmm.
then there's no harm, no foul. He's just not racing. And if you kept him on your team, for example, if you kept Kevin Magnussen on your team, even though he was listed as inactive, he couldn't make you points. He couldn't lose you points. He was just a $10 million hole in your roster.
Which is sometimes okay.
Which my personal philosophy is, as soon as there was a $5 million hole in the roster, and as soon as if losing Logan Sargent, if losing Kevin Magnussen and having him replaced with Oliver Behrman meant I now had a $5 million deficit
that you had to
fill,
find
I would have had to move other people around.
Sure.
It was just for one race, so I would have kept Kevin Magnussen's hole there in my roster and just not had him race.
I see. Okay.
Rather than swap everybody around and the next race have to swap everybody around again to get the players on.
Sure.
To prevent people from doing that and just basically buying blank spaces on their roster to limit their risk or liability, they changed the teams so that now if your driver is not racing, does not participate in the qualifying, and does not participate in the race, they get the negative points for a DNF.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It won't, if they are not one of the two main drivers for the team, then you cannot have them on your roster or you're going to start taking the negative points.
Got it.
Is the way, and I let me read the exact language here. Where'd it go? DNF not classified penalties apply to all drivers, including those classed as inactive or otherwise not included in the final starting grid list for the race. So if they're not one of the, and there's another part I'm not going to worry about reading it all. But so basically you cannot sit a guy, and I'll be interested to see how this works. You cannot have somebody on your roster that's listed as inactive, or they're going to start incurring you the -5 and -20 points.
Yep.
I don't know yet if those are going to start accruing naturally if they're inactive, because right now Oliver Behrman is one of the stronger fantasy F1 players, even though he's only raced one race and it's thrown off all of the stats.
2 now, yeah.
2 races now, yeah. So we'll see that. But as far as the constructors will score the combined total of their 2 drivers in the race, with the exception of a driver of the day bonus. Constructors also score points. Okay, So yeah, so basically you can't stash people on your roster anymore. You're going to start getting the negative points.
Okay.
I am curious to see how that actually works out, to see if as soon as Oliver Behrman is off the roster, if he starts incurring -25 points every fantasy race that he's not racing, or if it's just if you put him on your roster, he'll give you those negative points.
I see.
I'm not sure quite how that's going to work. But yeah, so big thing for anybody who is following my philosophy about fantasy F1, you can't just stash drivers that are inactive on your roster to prevent your liability exposure. You have to keep them moving.
Okay, I appreciate you explaining that one, because that would be nice to just have a few spaces not hurt you.
Exactly. You know? And the big thing is with, like I said, with Haas, like as soon as I have all of my millions of dollars spent, one of my drivers that cost $11 million is going to be inactive for 1 week.
Yeah.
The only other guy I could put on there is $15 million. Well, now I'm going to take that -25 points unless I do something with that spot. And that sucks, but it kind of keeps the game interesting, keeps the game going.
Sure.
So there's that. Okay, let's discuss our teams.
Yeah,
and how we did.
That works. Yeah, we'll go over what happened this past weekend as far as our builds and how that's going to influence our way forward.
All right. So for me, I actually came out on top this weekend, which I'm happy for, and the reason is because I use autopilot. So I was able to get. I changed around one of my builds. I had Oscar Piastri and George Russell.
Oh, great!
And then I put on autopilot.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure which, and I mean George Russell still finished P3.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
He had like an engine problem, or he had some issues in practice, and so I didn't have all that much faith in him. But yeah, Oscar Piastri got me 94 points, which is sick because I got my 2x for him. McLaren got me 85 points. And we're just gonna be talking about it.
Sure.
I don't have the screen up, but yeah, so that I have one of my teams that really worked out well. I got P1, P3, and my constructors did fine.
287
points.
Not bad.
That was not bad.
So my best, I got 249,
which is sick.
No, I'm happy with, because So my top 2 drivers, I had Charles Leclerc, and he was my 2x, so I got 56 from him. And then I had George Russell, so that all worked out well. And again,
that's a winning combination right there.
Then Franco Colapinto, 9 points for $4.5 million. I'll be thrilled about that all day. And then the interesting thing though is my constructors was Mercedes and McLaren, so that worked out well for me overall. I had a few teams that should have done better.
Yes.
So my second team, I got 206 points. Still. Can't complain about that, given how the season has gone at times for me so far. But I had Oscar Piastri with a 2x. Woo, love that. So 94 points. But my other high-priced driver was Carlos Sainz, which got me a total of -4 points. So what could have been just a killing of a team just didn't work out for me on that front.
And the killer point about that is if Sainz had finished P3, that would have been 15 points.
Oh yeah.
And if he hadn't gotten DNF, he wouldn't have gotten all that negative points.
Correct.
So you would have been up positive. That was
35 points or 40 points.
40. I want to see it like 35, but then it's also those points again with the constructor.
See,
so that was like an 80-point swing.
You're right. Yeah, because on this team I had Ferrari and Mercedes.
Yeah, you would have been over 100. You would have been in over 300 points in that team, I think.
Dang it. Okay. Well, that's not nice.
Yeah.
And then I had another team that I went full Ferrari on.
Which one's that?
That was the Stathams.
Oh, the Stathams. Okay.
So again, I don't think it was the wrong call.
No, it was the right
call. It just so happened that a Ferrari crashed out. But so I had Leclerc, Sainz, Colapinto, Hülkenberg, Bottas, Ferrari, and Mercedes. So logical choices. It just didn't pan out.
It was the right choice because you were a blink away from having P1 and P2 and P3.
Yeah.
and the constructor for him. Like that would have been huge. The only way this team would have been any better is if you've been able to get rid of Mercedes as your constructor and get McLaren on there. But that's
right. But again, at this point, Mercedes is still overall.
It is.
They're solid overall, especially if you have George Russell, because he's still cheaper than Hamilton.
Yeah.
So I don't. So here's the thing, I had a wide spread of points between my three teams. I don't think I'm going to change that much because Piastri can win, and he's still cheaper than Norris.
Yeah.
Russell can win, but he's turning in a consistently stronger performance than Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Leclerc is a little less bombastic than Sainz. I think if you're going to have someone from Ferrari, that's not a bad idea. But I would push for Leclerc.
I would go for Leclerc as well because he's the one who's hanging around.
Correct.
They're the one they're still working. He's the one they're still working with. I understand. The official line from Ferrari is that they're not sabotaging Carlos Sainz.
Oh no, not at all.
They would never do that. That's not what I'm saying.
Correct.
But as soon as he's going, at some point you have to start being in the military and having security clearances. At some point you have to start getting read out of what's going on.
Absolutely.
And at some point, Carlos Sainz is sitting down and having strategy meetings and getting help. Charles Leclerc is sitting down and having strategy meetings and getting help that Carlos Sainz is not getting.
Yep. There will be information very soon, if not already, that Sainz is not privy to anymore.
Yep. And so I love this team. And I think the fact that it kind of like when Russell got disqualified and got his negative 100 points, right, that he would have got a 100-point swing. I think this is a great build. I agree.
Yeah.
I think the Stathams, scrolling all around, I think that's a great build. RB Dragon Fruit, I think this is very strong. The only way this would be better is if you had, I like Piastri.
And so this is the team we're looking at that has Piastri and Sainz on
and
it.
Ferrari and Mercedes. Again, it's great. This would have been a wonderful team if
Sainz had
finished the race, and then with Newbie Alpha, like the results here, like again, I love the fact that
Newbie Alpha is the Leclerc and Russell team.
Leclerc and Russell with Mercedes and McLaren. I think this is strong. I think this is your strongest build, of course, because it's got you almost 250 points.
Yeah,
but also you have arguably the lead driver for
McLaren
the lead driver for Ferrari.
Absolutely,
arguably the lead driver for Mercedes
at this time with
Russell.
I don't think that's too controversial of a take right now. No,
I don't think it is, and I think even Lewis Hamilton's fine with it.
Oh sure, he'll do what he can. But he's not going to kill himself for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, so. and our RE, the conversation we just had, he's probably out of conversations right now that Russell's still in on.
Oh sure, yeah.
So. Oh, man, that's such a good race. I was on the edge of my seat. So what shifts are you going to make? I know we already talked about it. We said probably not any. For me...
I'm going to... actually, what I'll do is I'm going to review the prices, and if possible, I have the one team that has McLaren and Mercedes. The only reason I have that build is because I couldn't afford Ferrari and McLaren.
Okay.
I'm going to see if this past week's results impacted the constructor price at all to find a way to finagle that.
Okay.
But otherwise I think I'm going to leave things untouched.
Honestly, me too. Like, so looking at mine, the only thing I'm thinking about getting rid of is Yuki Tsunoda because that's 2 DNFs in a row.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that hurts too much.
It hurts. It just hurts way too much, especially because he's at 10 million and I have 7 million sitting on the table.
Okay, so you've got something you can play with. 7 million is enough that you can make some adjustments.
I can make some adjustments. So I'll probably get rid of Yuki Tsunoda and honestly looking at getting
Ollie Behrman.
Well, Ollie Behrman, or at least go back to Nico Hülkenberg, but I'm keeping Colapinto.
Yeah.
I'm definitely keeping.
Oh no, you can't not at this point. Yeah. If he can do what he just did for the rest of the season, he's worth his weight in gold.
So let's see. So Colapinto's value went up 0.5 million, which is good. I mean, that's what he should have done.
Oh sure, yeah.
Let's see what I am curious real quick. And let me manage my team. I'm not going to save anything. I just want to see what Oliver Behrman's value did. Oh, no kidding.
So what you're hearing right now is Paul looking at the screen and seeing that his value dropped 1.7 Wait a minute. How? He got
It's natural selection occurring. They're adjusting his price.
So he did well in a Haas, but he dropped from 15 million down to 13.3.
Oh.
So I would say if you have a middle-of-the-road driver who you're not too thrilled with, like Yuki Tsunoda or like anyone from Alpine, which I don't know why you would, but if you do, or you have maybe even Fernando Alonso, I would say consider dropping any of them right now for Ollie Behrman.
Yes, but you're going to end up losing money. Because he's going to continue to go down. How much further is he going to go down?
Why
did he go down?
Why did he go down?
Why did he go?
Question, because he did great.
Yeah, my guess is because only 1% picked him up.
So this is okay. So there are a couple variables that might be at play here. One is I think one of the things that has to have contributed to his initial value is his overall point standings. That based on the fact that in one race he had picked up 17 fantasy points prior to. If that was the only metric that the fantasy Formula One number crunchers had to work off of, and they interpolated that out throughout the season, that would make sense for his value to be at 15 million.
That's true.
And then so this would still have brought him down.
Yeah.
But man, what that doesn't math right for me. You know, like he did great in a Haas car, and he drops 1.7 mil.
The only thing I can think of is like I don't know why they're doing that except to try and bring him back towards the value of the other guy. But right now, that's screwing people over though because
it absolutely is. But I think you're right. If only 1% picked him up, yes, that 1% got screwed over. I think they're saying, okay, we messed up on the initial value. We need to drop him enough to have people engage and add him to their team.
And in the meantime, we're going to fleece everybody who has him.
Oh, absolutely. If you were one of the ones who picked him up, you weren't wrong. He's a good driver, but man, oh man, yeah, you just got screwed over.
I agree with you that as soon as he starts doing better again, it might jump up again. So if you want Oliver Behrman, wait a minute, because he's going away because it was only one race.
One race, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they must just be trying to they must be assuming that they're just going to screw over that 1% that has him. Because then they're going to start naturally adjusting his price down to the mean, progression towards the mean. But
this is all I'm going to watch next week for now. Is I want to see what happens to his dollar value because this does not.
No,
track.
that ain't right. Where did in Colapinto? I said went up 0.5. Hulkenberg went up. He must be.
Lando Norris even went up 0.2. I mean, okay, but he did well based on the lowered standard of certain not making it past Q1.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man, Oscar Piastri went up a whole $1 million.
Oh yeah,
dude.
Yeah,
that's sick.
He's gonna stay on my team the remainder of the season.
You know what would be an interesting stat is if. I have to check because I have all the numbers because I copy all these down. I haven't ran this stat before. I wonder if week to week everything's a zero-sum game. No, it can't be.
No, it can't
be. It's way too blue for right now.
Oh, what happened to Verstappen?
Where'd Max go? Let me go up. Max Verstappen. He went up
0.1. Okay, so he didn't do much.
He didn't do, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I want to see because that's kind of for anybody who's like, man, I'm going to sell everything. I have literally barely enough money. I'm going to get Oliver Behrman. Here we go.
Yeah.
And then they just did take him 1.7 like that.
That's pretty much.
Somebody's going to be how much? This is me being a little pessimistic. Then we'll get going. But I'd be interested to see if suddenly Kick Sauber had an increase in how many people got them because that's all people could afford. Because now they might not have enough money to go back to their other builds.
You're right.
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah,
come on.
If you took Ollie Behrman,
if you took Oliver Behrman,
this could have just wrecked your entire remainder of your season.
And depending on how the values went around, because if everybody went up a little bit, you could easily find yourself 0.1 or 0.2 million out of your ability to get your V-carb or get your Haas driver back.
Yeah, no, that's wild.
And so much. I love this game. I love this game so much. 4 days from the time we're recording this to the next race. Can't happen soon enough, man. I love it. Well, that's, I think, all I had to talk about. Do you have anything? Any parting shots, saved rounds? Like that?
I was going to say that I had requested that ChatGPT write a one-page scene of Lawrence Stroll just totally chewing out his son Lance Stroll, and I'm not going to read it to you, but so I'll read you the prompt that I put in. And it was some comedy gold. AI is terrifying but also hilarious. So get on ChatGPT and tell it this. Say, please write a one-page scene in which Lawrence Stroll, owner of the Aston Martin Formula One team, berates his son Lance Stroll for being a terrible Formula One driver and a disappointment overall. You will not be disappointed. It's amazing. AI is going to overtake us all, and I for one welcome our robot overlords because I would watch these theater scenes all day long.
Oh, God.
So I'll leave you with that. It was an amazing race week. It's going to be a wild one coming up. Join us next week.
Yep.
If you've been listening, thanks for sticking with us. If you could leave us a 5-star review, that really does help us out and gets those robot overlords to recommend us to other people.
Right.
So please help us out. And but hey, thanks for joining us.
All right,
Take care.
cheers.